Hi everyone. So I thought before we jumped into today's video, I'd show you a little surprise that we had this week. In the middle of the week, we were having lots of rain. We actually got this beautiful snowfall. The snow just fell for about an hour and just covered the garden in this beautiful wintry mix of just softness. It looked like someone had just thrown snow down from the skies. It was really beautiful, considering most of our winter days are pretty gray here. I'm in zone 7B in Maryland, and we get some snow, we get a lot of rain in the winter, and a lot of gray sky days. So while you enjoy scenes from the garden on this snowy day, this video is actually going to be about a break in the weather this week. We had one day in the 50s. Sun was shining. It was so wonderful. And so I got out to do some work in the garden. I'm going to talk to you all about what I decided to work on. So I decided to trim my Limelight hydrangeas on this beautiful sunny day. So again, it was in the 50s. I just couldn't resist to get out in the garden. Now I decided to clean these up early. I normally wait until late winter, usually around March. But I decided to clean them up today because I really want to ensure strong stems next year. Now this Limelight did really well this year. It is very vase shaped and it held its stems beautifully. You can see here I'm only taking it down to where I see a bud, and I am making sure that I'm only cutting about a third off. Now I'm cleaning up all of these scrawny stems because they are just going to flop and they're going to send energy to parts of the flower or the plant that I don't want it to. This plant is only 2 years old and I want it in its third year to continue growing really strong stems that eventually, hopefully, maybe even can turn into a hydrangea tree. So I'm just doing all that cleanup to get rid of those stems. Now in just a minute, I'm going to head to the side of my garden where I have two very large, over 6 foot tall limelights. However, these limelights, even though I have pruned them the past 2 years, they flopped horribly this year. I even had to tie them up. Because of that, they are now not shaped in a straight way like these. So I'm going to show you that in just a minute. Now you do not have to prune your hydrangeas this early. I just wanted to go ahead and do some cleanup so that they are protected from the winter. I don't want any stems to break. And I also wanted to start correcting some of the misshapen stems. Now this looks like a really small hydrangea, and it is, but don't be mistaken. This used to be at least a 6 foot tall hydrangea. It was one at my mother's home. It was huge and beautiful. We decided to transplant it, and so we had to hard prune it. It didn't do anything the first year, and last year I did get a few of these little sweet blooms. It is very healthy. I just need it to have a little bit more time, I think, and hopefully we see lots of growth this year. So I'm just cleaning it up while I'm over here. It didn't need a whole lot, but again, I don't want these little scraggly branches to get in the way. Now, if you look over to the right, I have another hydrangea that I just have. It's one of those, it's a summer, it's not a limelight, but it is a panicle, but it is all mushy from the winter. So I'm just going to clean that up as well. Okay, so this is one of two limelights that I have in this side flower bed. This one is actually the worst. For whatever reason, and I have pruned them the same every year, it flopped really bad. The branches were just bent over after a really large rainstorm that we had. And unfortunately, I could not get it tied up straight. The branches just curved over and they ended up staying that way all summer long. So unfortunately, this Limelight is going to need a hard prune. So I'm having to take it back almost 50%, and I still may have to take it back even further. Now that it's all pruned, I've been looking at it and I may have to cut some more on it. So unfortunately, if you get a large Limelight like this that you have an area where you get lots of rain, lots of wind, and it curves and the stems bend, it's very hard to straighten them up. It was also very beautiful, but you can see how some of those stems are branching. So in order to trim this, I am going to just take off at least to probably 50% these larger, heavy stems. Then I'm going to go in and fine tune it. I'm going to clean up all the small, scraggly branches. We just don't need those. You want your hydrangeas to be very clean, with what's left after you prune should just be your strong, sturdy stems. So for this one, it's going to take a lot of work. And once I'm done, I am going to probably have to trim some of them even more. But I'll let you see some of the details of how I'm pruning this. And then I have a second one that I'm going to work on. But in case you have one that this happened to, I wanted you to see how I'm dealing with it. May or may not be the right way, but I think in the end, my desire is to have a Limelight that is straight up and really vase shaped, and so I'm going to need to do this hard prune. We're not sacrificing blooms because the Limelight blooms on new growth, and it will rebloom, regrow in the spring and be beautiful next summer. So here is the hydrangea after the first round of cleanup. So if you look close, you'll be able to see there are still some curved branches and I need to do some fine tuning. So I'm going to continue to really thin out underneath. And just because I did this initial prune doesn't mean in early spring I can't prune some more. The main reason I wanted to go ahead and do it now is because I did not want any broken branches due to heavy snow if we get it, heavy rain, heavy wind. And so I thought it would be better to go ahead and assess the situation now. There is no harm in doing it at this time of year. And so now I'm just going in and cleaning out all those little bitty bits and branches. To me, that's the most tedious part, but it really makes for a beautiful plant. Your plant will love it, you will love the look, and I think it's a really important part of cleaning up and pruning your hydrangeas. So I wanted to show you this curved branch. Isn't that wild how it started turning when it was little? Then as it grew, it started to straighten up. But that branch is going to have to be cut all the way down. And you can just see all these cross branches that I have. There's one that's touching another branch. So after all the cleanup was done, I had so many hydrangeas, but I did collect a group of hydrangea blooms that just still looked beautiful. I just love the dried hydrangeas, and I cut them and cut them and cut them. But since I was trimming these off, I saved some really long ones and thought I would add them somewhere in the garden just to give some beautiful winter interest. So if you live in an area where you can still get out and garden this time of year and you get a beautiful day between January and spring, then I encourage you to go out and assess things in your garden that you could go ahead and clean up, especially something like your panicle hydrangeas. So I'm just adding these to this container. It's not going to be anything fancy, but just wanted to savor them a little longer and thought it would just be some pretty winter interest. So thanks so much for watching. And as we close the video today, I also wanted to show you my magnolia tree that is in the driveway garden bed. It has got its spring blooms all cocooned and wrapped up, but you can actually see them. And that just always brings me hope during these darker days of winter that spring is just around the corner. So if you look for it, it's there. I hope you're doing well. Please click like, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in my garden in the next video.